So give us your overall thoughts on these findings.
I just remember in 2017 when we announced that we were going to give people money, there was so much vitriol and anger and also confusion. And I'm just so proud that just a couple years later, we have over 100 cities doing the same thing. I'm talking to governments across the world, CEO of South Korea, Brazil, and others who are looking at what we did in Stockton and saying, South Africa, and saying, how do we do this in our communities? And then the data consistently shows that all the things people say about people who have less money just aren't true. They said their money was going to be spent on drugs and alcohol. It's been proven time and time again in Stockton, but also in the dozens of cities doing the same thing right now based off what we did in Stockton, that people spend money the way you and I spend money on necessities, on food and on their children. We heard people say that people will just stop working with $500 a month. And we found in the first year the opposite, that those who received the guaranteed income were more likely to work, and saw that even during a pandemic where going to work was dangerous for a lot of essential workers, people didn't stop working. There were no negative employment impacts. So I'm just so excited to see the conversation we're having around the child tax credit, which is a form of guaranteed income, and I'm more confident than ever, particularly with AI and all the things you guys are doing with ChatGPT out there, that we'll have some sort of guaranteed income in this country in the next couple of years, and it will be informed by the residents of my hometown of Stockton. And I'm very excited and very proud.
Michael, was there anything about those results that surprised you? I mean, granted, at the time, you were the catalyst behind this and you pushed for this effort. Now, with the results and the data from these researchers, was there anything that came across that you weren't expecting?
The biggest surprise for me, which sounds silly when I think about it, was just the profound impact on mental and physical health. I think particularly when we talk about mental illnesses or depression, anxiety, and stress, we often talk about those things as if they're just chemical imbalances and not that they're triggered by external forces. And it makes sense that if you're struggling to pay bills or you're worried about whether your children are going to eat, that causes some stress and some anxiety for you, that makes you less healthy, that impacts your mental and physical health. But it's not something I thought about when we initiated the program. So the fact that the guaranteed income is helpful with not just money, but with physical health, not just with employment, but with mental health, was something I hadn't anticipated.
So Michael, we have about a minute and a half, couple more things we want to get to here. What happened to those people now? So this program was only for 24 months, but where are they now and what are they doing now without that guaranteed income?
Yeah, well, what we found that was also very encouraging was that people understood that 2 years meant 2 years. So what they did is they used the temporary money to make permanent change. So for example, if folks had a little bit of credit card debt, they paid that debt off. So even if they don't have the $500 still, they don't have that debt and they're in a better position than when they started. Or they were able to transition from part-time to full-time work, or they were able to get their car fixed. They were able to do the little things that hold people back from reaching economic security. And I think everyone in the study, as the research shows, may not be a millionaire, but is definitely doing better because they had 2 years of a chance. 2 years of a head start, 2 years of an opportunity to buy boots and straps to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
About 30 more seconds here. How do you think things would have been different if there hadn't have been a pandemic?
If there hadn't been a pandemic, absolutely, I think the difference between those who received the guaranteed income and those who didn't would be even larger, because we have to remember during the pandemic, everyone was getting money from the government. Everyone was getting some form of guaranteed income through stimulus checks and the tax credit. And I think that's why year two, the difference isn't as pronounced as in year one, is because in year two, the government realized, even President Trump at the time realized, that we have to give people money, give people a fighting chance to survive in the pandemic.
Michael Tubbs, always a pleasure to see you and to catch up. We're going to have to do another interview just to find out what you're doing these days. We know you wrote a book, but we always appreciate your time and definitely your perspective. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me.